Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful Tuesday, and we are back again with another Fanatics Weekly Review. Day late, as always, we'll go through the top 100 items auctioned over on this auction block. And as we get on over there, I will say that I did record this yesterday. Ultimately, I got like halfway through it, stopped the recording, started it again. At least I thought I started it again. And yeah, I continued all the way through it. So I've been through this auction block, so I might be a bit brief, and there are a few graphs missing, but I think I remember all of the prices, at least to some degree. So, but with that said, let's go ahead and get rolling here. We start just a smidge below 500, low auction block this week, at least compared to the last couple months, and we'll see as to maybe why that is as we go. But we start with a Lamine Yamal Topps Now IP auto for $444. We have a Savinho and Erling Haaland patch. Cool looking card, but of course these are not match worn, so that's always seemingly going to make a difference. I mean, a 1/1 black Erling Haaland only doing $450, I think kind of tells a story there. Luis Monti, 1926 Aguila does $468 in a PSA 2. My understanding is that this is a fair number, not crazy, not a steal by any means either, at least depending on how you see the issue. It is early Monty, but it is a caricature, and maybe not the most, I mean, it's not a bad caricature, but I think in the world of caricatures, it's not anything crazy. But it is fairly early. It is a fun one nonetheless, and not a bad price. I do think this did over last comp, but the last comp might have been an SGC 3, so it depends on how you see the grades there. In this row, not really a whole lot I want to talk about, truthfully. Matchups continue to do well. Lamine Yamal continues to do well, even, Crystal Premium releases, and you have a Leaf Messi here. So, don't mind Apple. I'll get that out of the way for you, and we'll keep moving. Above it, Kylian Mbappe, we have the Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 9, along with a Donruss 2018 Gold Press Proof out of 75. Both doing nearly the same number. Sort of an interesting dynamic here, which one you pick. Along with that, I thought the Eden Hazard was kind of cheap. I mean, $516. In the world of, he's not like the most notable player by any means. I don't think, in like 20 years, he'll be one of those streets didn't forget type players where people that were around certainly remember. But he's heavily collected in the hobby, and so I think $516 on a PSA 10 Prism Gold during a year where these are pretty hard to grade, I don't think that's bad, truthfully. Probably a decent deal as well, depending on how you look at it. Above it, a select top-of-the-class gold Neymar for $516. This was an all-time high for this card. It had sold twice before, I think, for like $300 and $400, so this is an all-time high. We have a Cafu Ruby out of 1998 Merlin. This is numbered out of 100. There was some talk about this in the Vintage Discord. As always, the link down below to that. Fun place to chat. Vintage, pre-modern, even modern. They got it all there, so... There was a bit of a discussion here in terms of pricing. Some people thought it was overpriced. Some people thought it was fair and, maybe underpriced. Personally, I don't think it's bad. I mean, truthfully, the Merlin 98s are not the first numbered set. I think a lot of people sort of use that in their formulation of why it's popular. But I think they mirror, in a weird roundabout way, kind of 2014 Prism, where it's not really the first numbered item, but a lot of people see that as sort of the go-to numbered item for that era. And Serie A was just so, stacked with legends at the time. A lot of notable names. You got R9, Zidane, obviously Cafu, many others beyond that. And so I just think that it is a very notable set from that regard. It's also a short print numbered. There's a lot of numbered stuff back here where it might be numbered to like 2,000 or 7,000, things that nowadays we just laugh at because, no one would ever care. But numbered out of 100 for the 90s. In a, style that's sort of reminiscent of basketball for, one of the better Brazilian players all time. It's, where do you rank him? I don't know. But very notable for the era, all-time caps leader, I do believe. And, sort of the color match with Roma, too. I think 516 isn't crazy. There were comparisons made with his rookie sticker, but ultimately, I think rookies matter. I do think they matter a lot. But as you can tell with modern, rookies matter with Messi and the likes thereof. But, numbered stuff matters also. When you have cool numbered stuff later in your career, people go after it. And when there's only 100 out there, and how many are actually in circulation, this indicates it's a pop one of two, just too higher. Of course, you'd imagine that goes up over time. But, I just don't think it's bad at 516, but they have had a run. I think Zidane's second-year Merlins were selling for like 600 to 800 a couple years ago, so there's definitely been a run on this set, but I still don't think it's crazy. If you look next to it, I'd personally take the Cafu in this row. I don't know if that's crazy. On a different day I might take the Neymar, but the Messi Black Friday out of 10. And a lot of people would take the Messi just because it's Messi, but Black Friday stuff doesn't really do a whole lot for me, but that's just me. Above it, Jude Bellingham Cutler Blast goes for $5.52. And Eteraf Cruyff PSA 8, nice grade on that. PSA Pop 1 of 3, 1 higher, goes for $5.64. And then finally a PSA 8 Upper Deck number 13, Cristiano Ronaldo, goes for nearly, well, actually the exact same number there. Moving above it, another Cruyff here in this row. We also have an Mbappe Gold Circles PSA 10 for $5.76. The Cruyff I don't have a whole lot on, truthfully. So, I mean, it says Pop 1 of 1, 1 higher. I just always recommend, with this type of stuff, to take a look on eBay, foreign eBays, as many sites as you can, and try to get an idea if there are more out there. Because some of the mid-career stuff for some of these guys isn't graded in the mass that it could be. Not to say this one is, but just generally speaking. 66 Bergman, Franz Beckenbauer, PSA 6 with a 10 auto. This has an MK designation, so you typically subtract 2 grades for that. At least that's what PSA does with their registry. And, PSA 4 with a 10 auto for 600 feels strong. I mean, I talk about this all the time. It feels like 66 Beckenbauers do really good prices autographed compared to 65s. Doesn't feel like the 65 gets a huge premium for being a rookie that is autographed, but, Beckenbauer and a lot of the Germans are pretty prolific signers, so they are more available than, basically any other players of that era. Above it, Messi PSA 8 for $630. We have an Mbappe PSA 9 for $630 as well, which is up almost double. I think these bottomed at around $300, so that is not bad at all. We have a Desiree Doué out of 50 PSA 10 for $690 also in that row. Above it, some pre-modern here, 2008 Mega Cracks PSA 9 Messi for $720. I had initially, when I last recorded this, had the graph, or not the graph, but the past sales. And this is down. I think the all-time high sale, at least, I think it was the all-time high sale, not even just a relative high, but all-time high I think was 1,100 a couple months ago, and now we're at 720. So the Messi, at least in this example and other examples as we'll see going forward, they seem to have sort of retraced a bit. And, again, I think that's fair. I've talked about this basically every week because we always run into Messi. But, I mean, when you go up 300 to 400%, it's hard to go up more, certainly, and it's also hard to maintain. So, I think some retracement makes sense. What level of retracement makes sense, I guess we'll find out. But all to say, I still think it's a decent price at $720. I mean, this was recently graded. You can tell by the cert numbers, so they're out there. And, when there's the prices that warrant it, they will come to market. 2004 School Shop stickers. Truthfully, I know nothing about this. I don't think I've ever seen this sticker before. And so, if you guys have any information, would love to hear about it in the comments, because I don't have a whole lot to add. I will say that when I looked at the comps, a lot of these were in BGS and CGC slabs, and there was some PSA, but it seemed like old PSA slabs, at least relative for soccer. And I know that there was a time where PSA was maybe grading stickers they shouldn't have, and ultimately sort of retracted their grading of those stickers. I wonder if this could be in that bunch, but as I mentioned, I don't really know. I just have sort of the history that I was able to look at and draw from. So if you have any info there, do tell. It would be greatly appreciated. Next to a 1996 Thierry Henry PSA 8 at $780. This is quite a bounce back. It had sold recently at like 300 to 400. There were some sales at like 500, but generally 300 to 500. And to be at 800 now is pretty solid, to say the least. These have definitely come down in 2024, but seemingly are getting a bit of a run here. Above it, row of Messi's, take your pick. Sapphire Yellow out of 99 and a PSA 10. We have a top of the class Camo PSA 10 that went for 900, and a treble patch out of 7 from 2018. Truthfully, I mean, I don't like just patch cards most of the time, especially not game-worn patches. This one's not game-worn, but it is a nice looking card. I'll give it that. So, I mean, I really don't have a pick between these three, to be honest with you. I do like first-year Sapphire, so I think that matters, but ultimately, an early select out at 20, I'd almost just take that on principle. But I could also even see an argument for the treble threads, so really whichever way you want to go with that. Above it, we have a couple more Messis along with a couple Portuguese players. A PSA 9 matchups goes for $930. Again, those have done really well and seemingly are sort of sticking at that price, which is interesting. We have a Gyökeres Field Level Gold, PSA 10, that has went for $990. initially struggle with Arsenal, seemingly sort of bounce back a bit, and ultimately we'll see that where that plays out. You're not going to learn as much as you need to off just a couple months, but it'll be interesting to follow that as it goes. Lionel Messi Purple Prism out of 99 for $9.90 as well. As you can imagine with most Messi Prism, whatnot, doing pretty good. But I don't think it's like a crazy price. Like to me, I understand the matchups is beloved, and there was recently a post by Soccer Cards HQ over on Instagram where he posted, I think it's ATC Cards, his pairing that he had a 1-of-1 black matchups and a 1-of-1 solo of the game flawless Messi. And, sort of which one would you want? And for me, I'd lean flawless, but I could see the argument for both sides. But a lot of people in the comments were just, they thought it was matchups, no question. They said, this is the best card in soccer. I don't know where that comes from. I mean, I sort of understand. I mean, it's first year Prism. It's two of the best players ever, so I get it. But ultimately, I just feel like Messi collectors would probably rather have Messi on his own. I feel like Ronaldo collectors would probably rather have Ronaldo on his own. I think soccer fans in general would probably like something with the both of them. So I think it sort of comes from that perspective maybe. But personally, in this row, I would take the Messi out of 99 purple over a matchups base PSA 9. A base, and it's just sort of the era of card we're in. A base 2014 card doesn't do almost anything for me. Even if it's a cool card like this matchups, it just doesn't do anything for me. Maybe I'm just sort of desensitized by the numbers and the rarity and all this stuff, but I would certainly, personally, take the purple in this row. Both mint cards, too, and 2018 sort of flies under the radar with Messi, at least to some degree, because 2022, of course, he won it. 2014's first year, so 2018 sort of forgotten, but ultimately, I think people put runs together of all of them, so I don't mind the purple at all. And I don't know if they had the purple out of 99 in 2022. I'd imagine they did, but it actually does have some sort of lineage, as there was an out of 99 purple in 2014 and an out of 99 purple in 2018. So you got that going there as well. Above it, found this to be very interesting. I mean, people like the shiny. I was even saying, I'm blinded by the shiny to some degree. It gets me too. But an Iniesta out of 5 post-playing career auto goes for the same price nearly as a 1967 postcard Johan Cruyff Puma that is signed. And personally, I lean a bit vintage nowadays, but I would take the Cruyff all day, every day. Of course, as I mentioned, it is a postcard, so, if you're into postcards or not, clearly that makes some sort of difference. But if you get into vintage soccer, especially like pre-war soccer, you really have to settle sometimes for postcards, and sometimes not even settle. Some examples are really, really good looking. This is one that's definitely fun. It's sort of rookie era Cruyff, and it's got a signature, presumably early signature. There was some talk in the vintage Discord again about this, but I didn't really get too much in terms of why these appeared signed as much as they do, because there are like 4 or 5 copies that have been signed and sold. I don't know if a couple of those sales are the same one or not, but this was the lowest sale, I do believe, out of the 5 to sell. So, personally, I think that was probably a good deal and, seemingly a good pickup. I wouldn't have minded to, pick that up myself, truthfully, but I just wasn't all too focused on it as this auction went down. 2017 Nobility Lionel Messi PSA 10 goes for $1,050. People like the Nobility. It's Messi. It's color match. It's PSA 10. I mean, you got all the factors there for a nice sale. A few Argentines above it, 2 Messis here. We have a PSA 9 World Cup card from 2006, a Julian Alvarez Kaboom PSA 10, and a 2020 Stadium Club Chrome insert. Championship Contributions PSA 10 red goes for $1,200. I didn't think that was bad, personally. I mean, a PSA 10 red Messi during Barca playing days, just generally for, near 1,000 seems like a pretty good deal. It's a pop 1 of 4. That's the type of card that, Messi collectors are still going to want, even though it's not a base or whatever. I mean, people are still going to want to add that, especially if it's at a discount. This row, we have a Florian Wirtz here. Florian Wirtz in general gets good pricing. Obviously, good player, had a massive signing with Liverpool and, has definitely left some to be desired, but ultimately his rookies are very scarce. He doesn't have a lot of sets. He doesn't have a lot of numbers. So when they do pop up, they do good numbers. Speaking of doing good numbers, Kaboom, Christian Pulisic. I think that Kabooms in general are really showing you that a lot of this strength for soccer cards right now is probably coming from outside of soccer. I do think there's strength within soccer, but there's certain examples where you can definitely tell there's strength outside of soccer. Kaboom being a big one, as it's a big case hit in basketball and football, and that's seemingly translated to global football. Kaboom Select Pulisic for $1,200. I think this was a $400 card most of the time, so as you can tell here, up 3x, so doing pretty well. Quad auto here, some AC Milan legends, Ruud Gullit, Shevchenko, MVB, and Kaká goes for $1,200. Above it, I'm not even going to try to pretend like I know who this guy is. There's only 12 watches on it also, which makes me feel a little better not knowing who this man is. But an out of 5 Argentine first Bowman rookie goes for $1,200 there, which seems good. You could pick up some cool looking Messi cards, or you could, gamble a little bit, and people love to gamble. So, I can sort of understand it, I guess. PSA 9 Silver 2014 Prism Messi. This one dropped a lot. I had sales picked up, but I'll just inform you as to where they were. Basically, back in May and June and April and earlier this year, it was a $700 card in a PSA 9. When the Messi mania sort of kicked off in August and September, this peaked at, I think it was like $35,000 to $4,000. And now we're back down to 12, which is a really significant and steep drop so quick. When cards of Messi were sort of getting steam, I actually believed that this could have held. I thought when it got up to 3 to 4K, I'm like, oh, I missed the boat on a Silver Prism Messi. It is what it is. But at the same time, I guess when this was 3 or 4K, there actually were numbered Messi Prisms from this year that weren't doing crazy multiples more than that. They were relatively in line, and so, if you could get a silver for 4K, or you could go get a red or a blue for 5 to 10, you would probably just go get the numbered stuff. And maybe that's what we're seeing here. Maybe it's just a one-off low sale, but I tend to think that that's sort of, showing where some of the Messi cards have headed, and we'll see if that spreads more, if this is just a one-off example. 2018 White Sparkle Messi PSA 10 for $1,300. Field level, of course, pop 1 of 8. And above it, we have a Lamine Yamal Crystal Premium Auto for $1,200 there. A Messi PSA 8 from the Mega Cracks team set, number 89. This went for nearly $1,400. This was probably a $500 card all day before, so it's still up, but I'd imagine it peaked a little bit higher. A lot of the Messi rookies seemingly have peaked and have come down a little bit. And we're going to see a lot of Messi rookies as this goes on, and I'll just get ahead of it and sort of say that as we go through them, they're still up massively. Most all of them are up like 200%, 300%, but they're not up 400%, which they might have been at one point in time. So, depending on how you want to look at it, you can say they're still really good prices, or you could say, oh, they're down 20, 30% from peak. I don't really know which is the right way, probably a mix of both, but I also think that, as we'll come to see, there's just tons of Messi rookies in this auction block, and I think having like 20 to 25 Messi rookies all selling at once certainly isn't ideal to get the best prices, but ultimately, one or a few consigners felt that they wanted to get it sold now, and, I can't blame them considering they're still up a lot, so, it is what it is. A red 2004 out of 325 Cristiano Ronaldo PSA 9 goes for $1,300 there. I've always felt that these are really cool for the price point, and to be fair, back before this boom, they were actually not really cared for at all. Like in not this boom, but in like 2019, these were really, really cheap, almost indicating that people really didn't care. But nowadays, where numbered stuff is king, having an early Ronaldo numbered item is just super unique for soccer. And so I think that these are really cool personally. And also the red on red is nice. Granted, black jersey here, but there's, it's Manchester United. You get it. Anyways, all to say $1,380 there, I think is a fair number, but still cool in my eyes. What is not cool in my eyes is the UK traditions, especially when PSA and Fanatics label it as 2004. That just gets my gears grinding, I guess. It's just tough, man. It's tough. And, shout out to Al and Bill. They do a monthly show over on Collect Football. If you haven't checked that out, do check it out. But basically, they were talking about it, and like prior to the soccer boom at all, like these were uncared for at all. Like no one really was looking towards this. Bill said that he was able to buy like 50 of them for $1 a piece. And, granted, soccer was cheap back in the day, but if you look at other Messi stuff prior to the boom, they weren't $1 a piece. Like, you couldn't just pick up early Messi you could pick it up for pennies on the dollar, but you couldn't actually pick it up for pennies. This was actually pennies. I mean, it was basically uncared for, mass-printed junk, really. And I think that it has really solely been carried by the 2004 labeling that they put on it mistakenly. I really think that that's the only reason people care about this, because no one cares about any other UK Traditions card. It's mass printed and it's 2006, which, and I guess it means something to Messi because it's a first year World Cup release, so it's got some place there, but paying $1,500 for it is ridiculous. I mean, it's just crazy. Anyways, I also think that it got a big premium for being labeled 2004 by both Fanatics and PSA, because typically these do like 800 or 900. 2014 World Cup Stars Messi PSA 8 out of 99 goes for $1,500, along with a red Beam Team Kylian Mbappe for $1,500 as well. I thought that was a really impressive price. Beam Team, of course, is something from the 90s in basketball, and maybe some crossover collectors are going after this. But, red out of 5 out of 10 Mbappe generally, it does well, but like $1,500 for a PSA 9, that seems super, super strong to me. And we'll move to page 1 now. On to page 1, this is sort of what I was referencing earlier with the boatload of Messis that we'll be seeing sell here. There we go. 3/8 here, hit the lotto right across the board. PSA 8 of the 89, another PSA 8 of the 89, and a Monday Chromo again. These are still up probably, 200%, 200-ish percent, maybe a little more, but ultimately not 300 or 400 like they may have been at different points. Above it, we have a Year of the Dragon Lamine Yamal for $1,700. I mean, it's sticker auto Lamine Yamal. It's going to do big numbers. You could get a Maradona, or you could get a Lamine Yamal. It's up to you. But ultimately, both doing nearly the same price is certainly something. We have a Lionel Messi right in between at $1,740 for that 8.5. I thought at least in the early examples we'll see here, I think the BGS cards are getting at least fair pricing based on PSA 8 sales. I mean, this one does $100 or $200 more for the half grade BGS higher, and I think that is showing at least a decent sign of respect to BGS. But again, another example here. 362 is across the board, and the 8.5 is smack dab in between. The 8.5 is a Catalan. The one on the far left is a Catalan, and the one on the far right is a Campione. Interesting to not really see much of a premium at all on the Campios. Of course, the Campios were released in Catalonia, which, of course, is where Barcelona is and sort of the culture around it. And so it has a little bit of something going for it there in terms of release. It's also speculated to be a little shorter print, but not that much shorter print, really, but at least some sort of differential there. At least that's the general belief. It's sometimes hard to tell because PSA graded them all collectively at one point in time, and then they split them. So you sort of have to do some backwards math there. But yeah, just interesting to not really see much of a premium there. Personally, I just go Campio if you have the opportunity. If it's at the same price, I don't see why not. But decent there. A couple more Messis above it, as you can tell. These rows here have been a great example of sort of how people rank the Mega Cracks team set. The white ones down here at $1,500, $1,600 and an 8. The green ones up here at nearly 2K, and then the blues at closer to 2.5. So you can sort of see the bracketing there, which is cool to see in live time. This Topps debut MLS is certainly interesting and shows you how much excitement and bidding can go on around just this type of card. I looked up Jordan Adebayo Smith, and essentially, I think he was a goalkeeper. Yeah, the kit implies he's a goalkeeper. I think he was a goalkeeper. I don't know. You probably don't know. I've never heard of this guy before this. But I looked him up. Basically, he's on Minnesota, went to their second team, and then now is on like Detroit City or something. And he has like a transfer market value of like 100K. So he's not a big player at all. And this goes for 2K, which is certainly interesting to say the least, and makes me terrified of what a Kevon Sullivan would do or any notable U.S. prospect from those sets, but time will tell what those do. Monday Chromo PSA 8 for $2,500 along with PSA 6 Cristiano Ronaldo sticker. Man, and again, well, I own a Monday Chromo and I own 2 stickers, so, I mean, with that, I guess I can show you a little bit where I'm thinking, but I just feel like the sticker, man, same exact price. In terms of rarity, the sticker's way rarer than the Monday Chromo, let alone, grade adjusted, all that. Like, I feel like that 6 is cheap, but we'll also see a 9 that actually went really cheap later. So, it just depends on how people see it. Of course, generally speaking, and especially for a lot of the crossover collectors coming from other sports, they're going to be much more drawn to cards than stickers. So I'm sure that plays somewhat of a factor. But man, you put both of these on the table next to each other, I'm taking the Ronaldo sticker all day. Way less rookies, lower pop, nice looking too. I mean, that Ronaldo sticker is, probably one of my favorite stickers in the hobby, truthfully. I just think it looks great. It's got great color. And it's a nice looking 6 too. I'm sure there's something wrong with it. It's a little OC left to right, but yeah, interesting nonetheless. Couple national landmarks here. Did I have this pulled up? No, that might have been the last one I closed. But there are 2 of these. This one went for $2,600. This one went for $2,600 as well. Essentially, these came out like a year ago. They started at about $2K. They dropped to $1K in a PSA 10, and now they're up to $2,600. So a pretty good jump there. Another PSA 8 Messi Monday Chromo above it for $2,600. Along with a solid black Topps Premier out of 25 for $2,760. Couldn't find any comps on this. There haven't been any public sales, but we did see a green and I think a purple sell recently, and those both did around $1,000. A much more rare black going for $2,700 seems about right. I believe the purple maybe was PSA 6 as well, so same grade, and that did around $1,000. So I think it's a reasonable increase here, and ultimately I don't think there will be a ton of high grades to bump this lower in the future. How many people were opening up 2014 Topps Premier League and super excited to see a Salah and kept it in great shape? It just doesn't really seem all that plausible. Above it, 2 PSA 9s here, and surprisingly the PSA 9's not getting a huge premium. I guess the white one is, because we saw the white PSA 8s do about $1,500, so that's almost double, which is fair. The green, we saw the green PSA 8s do around 2K. This only does 2.8, so I think the grading premium there is certainly worth it if you're sort of deciding between the two. And we have a Maradona BVG 8.5 smack dab in between. The BVG grading scale basically is a little bit more forgiving of damages because it's vintage. So a lot of people sort of subtract like 2 grades and assume that that's about what it is. So if you think that this is a PSA 6 to 7 Maradona selling for $2,760, that's a pretty good price, I would say. Above it, this row, 2 Messis and a Ronaldo in between. The purple chrome does $3K. I look back at this, and there was a sale, I think, a couple months ago for like $3,400, but other than that, this is the highest sale ever. So down a little bit from the last sale, but ultimately, I think that this was like a $1,000 card last year. So $3,000 now, not too bad. Cristiano Ronaldo auto in between, $3,100 here. This is sort of a throwback playing days Manchester United card, but I don't know if people will really see it that way because he came back to United right after this, so like it's almost in line with when he was playing there, but it is out of 25. It is a silver Prism auto, and PSA 10 as well certainly doesn't hurt. Along with that green Messi X Factor here goes for $3,100. With Select in general, it's futile to even look, but I like to do it every now and then, just in the hopes that one day I surprise myself. And yeah, it's player worn, so again, not shocked, but I guess player worn is better than unaffiliated and straight off the sporting goods rack. So maybe that's something for you. Above it in this row, look at this row and tell me which one you'd pick. And I can't imagine too many people would not pick the Pele. Come on, The Pele looks like the most premium product, and truthfully it is. We got Finest and Topps Chrome Black here, or Black Laser. It's like, all right, so you have 2 sticker autos, or really 3 sticker autos since one's a dual. But you have sticker autos of worse players, or you get Pele on card. My word, And I think in terms of comps, the Pele was relatively close to what it had sold for in the past. I think it was $3 to $5K, somewhere in there. But come on, come on. And look at the watchers too. We talk about the watchers every now and then when it's important. And I think it's important right now. 3 times the watchers of the 2 next to it. Come on, Ultimately, I don't have anything to say about Lamine Yamal sticker autos, and the duals. I think they're fun. But at $4,000. I think there's a lot of fun baked in. So, I mean, and they can keep making those for eternity. Well, not eternity. There will be an endpoint to that, but there's already been an endpoint to the Pele, as sad as it is. And, I just think it's such a good-looking card. Immaculate's a premium brand. Not the most premium, but it's definitely up there in soccer. And, I mean, what an easy choice, huh? Anyways, I mean, I'd still pick the Pele in this row. We have Optic. Oh, first time I looked through this, I didn't even know that had an autograph on it. Okay. I guess the price makes a little more sense. That Nebula goes for $4,300. But I'm not a big fan of national VIP stuff and just weird releases like that, especially when it's a Nebula out of 10. I think that's just disgusting. I mean, Nebulas are known to be one of ones, and they're throwing it on there to make people excited, I guess, and it certainly worked. The prize footballers, Messi in between, this goes for $4,400. The interesting part here is that there's been 2 prior sales of this card that I could find, one in a PSA 10, one in a PSA 8, and they almost all did the same price. So why the 10 went for the same price and 8's going for, I don't know. It is a super rare card, numbered out of 5, as you can tell. But it doesn't really speak to me as an out of 5. It's just a refractor. A lot of out of 5s from this era are typically red, so that usually, especially on a Messi, would warrant a pretty good premium. Next to it again, Kaboom. This is a great example of how Kaboom's just taken over soccer, and maybe outside forces have taken over soccer to some degree, because this Kaboom Ronaldo going for $4,600. I do think that this came out, it's 24, 25, so clearly it came out relatively recently. But from the comps that I had checked, I think it was 1,000 to 2,000, somewhere in that range, and now we're looking at pushing 5 at this point. Above it, Optic Gold, Kylian Mbappe for $4,800 here from 2018, World Cup winning year, of course. That's about where the last sale was. I think I had in my notes $5K before this, so this is basically where that was as well. And if we just glance by the Messi real quick, again, National Convention, 1 of 1 inserts going for the same price as that, I'd like to believe that we need some sense of, compass in the hobby beyond just numbers. And so, sure, this is a 1 of 1, but I'd take that Kylian Mbappe Gold all day, every day, especially France kit. That's just a banger of a card. And, the National Convention insert 1 of 1, they'll make that next year. They'll make it the year after that. They'll print 10 more of them every year. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? Who cares? There's only 10 more watchers on the Optic than there is the National Convention 101. So what do I know? What do I know? Golly, that's just disgusting. But I'm just one man with many opinions, but, whatever. 2014 Red Prism Messi goes for $4.8K. And again, this is sort of what I was referencing earlier, like when Silver Prism Messis were going for 3 to 4. If a Red's going for 4, nearly 5, yeah, it probably makes sense just to upgrade to that instead. And so I can certainly understand that maybe being part of the drop. In terms of pricing here, this is actually an all-time high sale. Granted, none of these sold between August 4th and now, so we didn't really capture a sale at the highest point for Messi. I guess if I take out PSA 9, maybe we can see a little something here. Ultimately, doesn't appear that way. I'm sorting by highest price. Apologies. I don't think it's going to change. Yeah, it doesn't change anything anyways, but, I tried, so. What are you going to do? Keeping it moving. 3 cards at $5,400 in this row. Take your pick of the bunch. We have a R9, of course, post-playing career. He's still not playing in 2022. We saw the 1 of 1 do, what was it, like 120K on Golden? This out of 5 does 5K. So, a little bit less, a little bit less. Not as cool of a patch, I'll give it that. But comparatively seems super cheap. But at the same time, $5,400 for a post-playing career on-card auto of a guy. I just think, and it's difficult because when you look back, everything in soccer was cheaper in 2019, right? Everything. So you can't compare to 2019 on a one-to-one basis. But where I find it interesting is prior to 2019, there are cards that truly cannot be replicated again. Like Messi rookies cannot be replicated again. Maradona stuff cannot be replicated again. Pele stuff cannot be replicated again. There's tons of cards that cannot be replicated again. And so when their prices rise, there's not really a way that you can cut into that as a manufacturer. You can't, unless you want to do Topps Lost Rookies and recreate 20-year-old rookie cards in some weird way. But even then, you're not really breaking away at the core of it. You're not chiseling away at the foundation. with these, great players having on-card items that are autographed and patches and all that fun. Like, this was probably, granted, he wasn't signing a lot, but for players of his ilk that were signing back then, this was probably like a $300, $400 card, in 2019. And so $5,400 now just feels super strong. Even I mean, especially the $120,000 sale of the 1/1, whatever that is. It just feels super strong when manufacturers can continue to chip away at the foundation of this stuff. Now, there are narratives that can hold through that chipping away, like first-year Dynasty, potentially, but you have to really hope that those hold strong. And even then, there's going to be other options that are still going to take away from, potentially the people that would get involved in something like this. Now, there's tons of factors that play into it. All to say, me personally, I do worry a bit about the super high-end on-card auto stuff because I just don't think it's ever going to stop. These manufacturers seeing these prices, I mean, how much do you think it costs them to make a card like this? I don't know what they have Ronaldo signing on. I don't know what the, price per auto breaks down to. But given what I've seen from other players, I can't imagine it's $1,000, $2,000. I'd have to imagine it's, maybe $100, $200, $300 at most, I would think. Granted, I don't know. But, I saw Ronaldinho's contract with a Leaf, and I think he was signing for like $80 or $90 an auto. Granted, it's a Leaf, and it's Ronaldinho, so it's not a 1-to-1, but like, okay, say $300. It costs him $300 to get him to sign, maybe. And then you get a patch, small patch, break that down to whatever you want. Maybe it costs them $500, $600 to make one of these cards, and then they sell it immediately for 10x. To each their own. Obviously, I mean, you could say the same thing, like how much does it cost to make a gold Ronaldo card? Probably not a ton, but again, can they be replicated? Can they not? Select Ronaldo's playing career can, and certainly have. But this still does a good number, so, all that talking for what? I'm just throwing some takes out there, all right? 5,400 on this Ronaldo was high. I think that was an all-time high sale here. I want to say I looked it up. I did. Hey, date sold. All right, let's see if it's all-time high. The only way it's not is if one of them sold during the mania of golds that happened in like 2023. Okay, it is an all-time high price. For those that weren't aware, there was like a 3 to 6 month span in 2023 where people just went nuts for gold. And like gold out of 10s were doing like 5 times, 10 times what they were just, months prior. And then it corrected pretty quickly. There have been some select sales to go higher, but those are field levels. And the field levels, I mean, Madrid kit got the checkerboard sort of pattern there. And I think that's the word for it. But yeah, they're nice looking cards. I can see why they get a premium over, this Portugal mezzanine, I do believe it is. Beyond that, the PSA 10 Messi goes for $5,400 here. Again, another card that's sort of showing the dip that we're seeing in Messi. Generally speaking, the seemingly topped out at about 9K, and now you're looking at, what was that, 7,400? 5,400 here. I don't know what that's about on Card Ladder. Maybe they just haven't updated the numbers at the top. But yeah, 5,400, down almost 40 to 50% from peak, which, again, I mean, this is a pop. I think it's like 200. Yeah, 136 card in this grade. And, since September, we've seen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10% of the population sold. And, can you blame people really? Like, when a card goes up from, like, $2,000 to $10,000, can you blame people for wanting to take some profits and maybe retracing the card a bit? I really can't, so I guess it makes sense. 1958 Aquarella BVG 6.5. Again, if you assume this is like a 4.5, maybe a 4, this is about right. If you assume it's a 5, maybe it's a little light. Aquarellas are always tricky in terms of grading because, of course, you have the perforated edges, so it's hard to make that out, really. Next to it, take your choice here between a select mezzanine 2022 out of 10 PSA 10 or a purple 2014 Prism. These go for $8,100 and $7,500, and sort of an interesting choice here on which one you'd rather have. The 2022 is, of course, Messi's World Cup winning year, if you didn't know. But, I mean, there's just so many select golds that I'd probably take the purple, personally. But I could totally understand wanting to take the gold, because gold out of 10 just feels like a different level of card. But I'd like to believe in my heart of hearts that 2014 Prism can still hold strong even with an out of 99. Anywho, beyond that, a Camo 2018 goes for 8,400. You know, again, I think 2018 Prism matters. 2018 Camo PSA 10 versus the purple. You know, again, it's interesting. It's interesting. But 8,400 there for a pop 107. Ronaldinho PSA 8 does 8,700, and a PSA 9 Ronaldo does 10.2K. And you know, again, it's interesting to me. I personally, now you got to pay $1,500 more. I'd take the Ronaldo PSA 9. This was actually a pretty low sale compared to one that had sold recently on the, I think it was the Premier auction. I do believe it did like 15 to 16K, somewhere in there. And so this PSA 9 at 10.2 seems like a steal of a deal. In terms of centering, I guess you could say it looks like a little, I forget the word of it, but where it's like tilted a bit. Because when you do look, it seems like the top right, I guess we can just zoom in all the way. But if you really want to nitpick it, the border up here seems about right. And then down here, it sort of, fades away into a much bigger border. On the right-hand side, the bottom's kind of small, and then it fades away into a much bigger border on the top. So I think it's a little skewed in there, which is, it is what it is. But maybe that could explain some of the pricing difference. I have had people in the past berate me about how Ronaldinho stickers are rarer, and that's why they deserve the premium, and Ronaldinho's an all-time great player. I wasn't there for Ronaldinho. I was born just a couple years prior, so ultimately didn't view his prime. I can still see it in highlights. I understand why he seems to be such a mythical figure. I mean, he was doing things with the ball you really weren't seeing at all at the time, and even really now. And so I get it, but ultimately, 50 years down the line, 100 years down the line, I think Ronaldo's clearly still going to be a top player, and, Ronaldinho might fade a bit, and that's fine. Nothing against him. I mean, go look, there's tons of great Brazilian players from the 50s, 60s, 70s. They don't get any hobby love, and, it's mostly just due to demographics that are collecting right now, I think. So, ultimately, interesting to see what you pick in this row. Personally, I take the Ronaldo. It's the most expensive, though, so maybe that's somewhat of a cop-out. But above it, 3 Messis here. Again, take your pick of the bunch. BGS 95 Este sticker. As always, BGS stickers in general, a little dicey. Of course, you have to wonder about trimming, because they don't do a great job at catching trimming. And there is some sort of consideration to be made for the waviness of the sticker that may appear in the slab. So that's always important. These were 2 to 3K back in the pre-second boom. Now, I guess that's just what I'm going to call it. I don't know. The first boom was 2021. Second boom was 2025. Pre-second boom, in between, in the interim, these were like a $2,500 sticker. So still doing really good there, and seemingly not retracing as much as some of the other ones, and that could have to do with how few of these you see relatively to the others. Next to it, PSA 9 Monday Chroma with a NBA top 15% sticker. So Mike Baker and his folk are saying that this is a good one. This is a good PSA 9. And, 10.5K, that's about where these have probably been. I do believe that's the number I had in my head. But back in the day, they, pre-second boom, they were 1,500 to 2K. So, this is still up quite a bit. These are actually holding really strong. It seems like the Mega Cracks team set maybe is the most susceptible to some of the downfalls we've been seeing. What's not susceptible is the Kabooms. They're shiny. They're case hit. The people want them. They like ripping Donruss in the hopes of maybe one day getting one. And they do a big number, 12.6K there. Did I look it up? Did I do it? Okay. Well, I guess first off, I looked up the Ronaldinho. This was actually up from the last sale at 7,400, up from the sale before that at 6,900, and down from the 2022 pricing. But ultimately, that's not some sort of indictment on it. Back in 2016, for the fun of it, 150. Not bad, huh? Not bad. $150 up to 8.7. And in between there somewhere, there was a sale at 28K. And, given that it was $150 to 28K, that's a type of movement where, some retracement might be necessary, truthfully. I mean, when you go from $150 to nearly $30,000, I could see why someone might want to sell that, and why a few people might. And it seems to have sort of found its bottom, seemingly at 5.7 there, and has come back up 3,000 as well. I will say, I was talking the Ronaldo up. You do see probably a couple, maybe 2 to 4 PSA 9 sell a year of that Ronaldo, maybe. I think this year you're seeing more because they're higher priced, but before you weren't seeing as many. This, you're only seeing sell about once a year. So if you want to make that argument, I totally get it and I understand it. I'm with you. Anyways, keeping it moving, I did look up this Maradona. This went for 16.2 and a PSA 7, which is a super strong grade. Pop 1 of 3, just 2 higher, so about as good as you're going to do. Personally, it's my favorite looking of the 77, 78 Maradonas. Granted, it's not as rare as the rookie. It's not a true rookie, but great looking sticker. Next to it, we'll actually go look at comps real quick. But this goes for 16.2. Before this, it did 11 on a best offer just 4 or 5 months ago, so that's up quite a bit. Before that, it did 9 on auction last year, and if we go back further, it's going to do bigger numbers back in the day. I say that, but there weren't any selling because they hadn't really been graded and sold. But you can see the caricature was doing 15K in 2022, and so presumably the portrait would have done like 30, maybe more. So it's definitely down from all-time highs if you extrapolate out. But I guess if you just look in terms of all-time high sales for this grade, this is actually the all-time high sale. So you can look at it that way if you want to make it a little more positive. Next to it, the Pele Alifa PSA 3 goes for 17.4 thousand. I didn't look it up, but that feels like a disservice to Pele and the Alifas to not do that. So let's do it. Let's see where it's been. Let's see where it's going. Well, I guess we won't know where it's going necessarily, but we'll see where it's going at this very moment. This is a PSA 2. Do they have PSA 3s? They do. One of the few cards Card Ladder has for soccer, but I appreciate it. Over the last 2 years, actually relatively flat / maybe down. Of course, this sale at 14 implies it's up from the last sale, but you never know. That could be a bad-looking copy. Maybe it's sold on like REA or something. I don't know. I guess we could just go look, huh? It was actually Fanatics Premier, and it actually looks like a fairly good 3. I mean, I guess we got to look a little bit more at the back. Clearly, the corners are a bit rough, edges are a bit rough. Color's nice, though, and, back looks pretty good, generally speaking. So, yeah, I guess it wasn't a bad copy. Maybe this is just up. But, yeah, this sale goes at 17.4, which ultimately is a decent sign. But, Pele, despite Maradona recovering, Pele has yet to do so. And I think part of that, at least in particular for this Alifa, is the population. Granted, I say that, and this is a pop 13, but in terms of total pop, it is a pop 212, so it sort of rivals, like Maradona stuff, but Pele has more options for rookies. But I've always felt that I love Maradona. Like, Maradona, probably my favorite player, personally. I don't know if I'd rank him as the best player ever, but, in terms of my player, I don't know how you want to word it, but in terms of the player I like the most, Maradona's it. But I've always felt Maradona probably won't hold up as well long-term because his stats aren't there, his trophies aren't there. Yeah, he won a World Cup, he has some domestic trophies with really bad, Napoli was awful, all that good stuff. But it's hard to explain to people now why Maradona's so great. Now, granted, you show them the clips, they might understand it, but Pele, it's very simple. It's a very simple explanation, You just say 3 World Cups, all-time leading scorer. Granted, Ronaldo's probably going to break that, but top 2, whatever, top 3. And so, all-time great scorer, 3 World Cups, only player to ever do it. I mean, it's very easy to say why these should matter. And also, obviously, 58 World Cup, coming into the World Cup and winning it and being a star player at 17, only prospects could dream of doing something like that. People go crazy now for prospects that win a Euro at 17, and yeah, I think a World Cup's a little better, and to win 2 more, I mean, all the better. So I feel like at some point Pele's sort of due for his time in the spotlight, but not getting it yet. And this could be just because he has so many rookies to choose from. People are sort of going different ways with it. It could be because the Alifa sometimes doesn't appear to be the best looking rookie. That's how I've always sort of felt. It's classic vintage stuff, but I think there are better looking ones personally. All the same, basically just hanging still and keeps on ticking on. Then finally, to top this auction block, the PSA 10 2004 number 35 goes for 24.6, and this is Campione. It says Campione on the slab. I'm going to take their word for it. In terms of pricing, down a little bit, down a decent bit, really. Seemingly peaked at 40K in September, and now we're looking at 24. So still up from earlier this year. It's up double from earlier this year, up 115%, but not up the 350% it may have been at a different point in time. And again, ultimately, I think it sort of makes sense. I mean, Pop 55, we just looked at the Alifas. I was saying that was high pop. It was like a Pop 13. So, Pop 55 in a world where Messi basically has the, and I think it's a great comp. I think Messi rookies are what Pele rookies are, basically, where you have a lot of different ones to choose from. And so I think it makes it a little tougher to sustain extreme price movement. Meanwhile, Ronaldo and Maradona have a lot less to choose from, and so I think extreme price movement can be a little bit more sustainable in those realms because you won't have tons of them coming to market. Of course, they'll still come to market, but not in the same quantity that Messi will. And as you can see here, in totality, a Pop 688, which still is not like crazy at all, but BGS has 180 graded copies, and in totality, it's 913. Granted, this is just the Campione for one version, so there are the Campio as well, and there's 3 different versions, so, you add that all up, you're probably looking closer to like 4K, something like that. Yeah, that does it for this week's auction. Next week, as with all of the every 10 auctions, they're massive, especially for vintage, because they do a vintage special. So I'm going to look at it. Keep in mind, I've already gone through it, and I've sort of watched some things in it. I say vintage, and then we see 3 Messis at the top, so, whatever. I have a lot of watches in here. I'm not going to clean it up, but just know I'm not actually bidding on it. Like, I just want to see what they do. Above it, well, I guess at the top of it, we have 3 Messis here. Kaboom. God damn it. Oh, this is just in it. I think this is first Messi Kaboom. It might be 2017. Maybe this is first Messi Barca. Whatever it is. Ultimately, we're going to see so many great things sell in this auction block, and if this Kaboom wins it, I'm going to just be totally depressed. It's going to send me into a spiral. 95 watchers though, so those basketball and football folk are loving it. Anyways, Optic. BGS 85 Messi, 71 bis. We have a Maradona 71 disc and a PSA 4 super strong grade there. We have a Stabile Plus Ultra. The Plus Ultra set's been selling really well as they are super hard to find out of South America in the mid-20s, and a lot of very notable players. National Landmarks PSA 10. We have a Dixie Dean rookie here from 1925, already at 4K. This Andrade going at 4K already, which is, I'm pretty sure, a strong price because I think it might not have been this copy, but a PSA 3 previously had sold on, I think, a buy it now for like 3 to 4K, and a lot of people in the vintage Discord thought that was a super strong sale. They didn't think it was crazy, but they thought it was strong, and to already be at 4K here is super impressive as well. PSA 10 Messi there, a Kamler's Sarosi from 1938 here in a 1.5, already at 3.2. Puskás Nanina going at 3K right now. A couple Messis along with a Nico Paz beneath it, so a little bit of a switch up there. Keeping it moving, George Best, PSA 7, super strong grade there. Mark Van Basten Panini sticker, you don't see a lot of those at all. Pop one at 12.7 higher. Messi Monday Chromo in a 9, an Aquarella, Titularis in a 4, 59 OMB Pele, PSA 8.5 Calciatore, Pele Auto from Aquarella 1958, Neymar 1 of 1. I mean, just a ridiculous auction block. Eusebio PSA 1 from 1961, really nice looking there. And, yeah, I'll just keep scrolling, but it's a ridiculous auction block. So if you're interested in this type of stuff, it should be a good week for you, and certainly looking forward to that as we get towards next week. So, as always, hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, of course, make sure to leave a like next week. Hopefully we'll have this out on a Monday, back to regular schedule. Anything you thought sold high or low, maybe something you snagged, would love to hear in a comment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.